So we are live now, but we got to wait for it to load. Sometimes it takes a minute to load up.
Yes, technology is your friend.
So it says done, redirecting to YouTube. Okay, come on, you little thing.
I'm gonna take a chance.
We are live. Alrighty, well, I am Dustin from Ghost Media Entertainment. So we are live now, but we gotta wait for it to load. And sometimes it takes a minute to load. Now I have to adjust the volume.
Technology is your friend.
So it says done, redirecting to YouTube. Okay, come on, you little thing. All right, now I'm on mute. Now it's not being wonky. Alrighty, now that we got that taken care of, my name is Dustin. I am with Ghost Media Entertainment. I'm sure you all have noticed I am sitting by myself right now. Usually I have a little girl with me, Zelda from Zelda's World of Music. But she is in a different location today, so she's not able to join us. But we do have Susie from, I'm going to butcher this name, Susie. Is it DiGregorio?
So you're not far off. It's actually DiGregorio.
DiGregorio.
And I love telling this story because I think it's so funny. Before my grandfather, my dad's father, before he hit Ellis Island, he was Giovanni DiGregorio.
Okay.
When he hit Ellis Island, they told him he needed a legal decree for something or other. And he just looked at the guy and went, okay, my name's a decree. And ever since then, he was John Decree. So it is actually kind of a nod to the family history.
That's awesome. I did learn how to spell it well, because I've had to spell it like 14 times. Maybe.
Yes.
Trying to tag you here, it's not going.
Oops.
DiGregorio.
Yep.
How do you usually do your tags? Is there something at the end of it? There's
for YouTube, I think it might be DiGregorio Band or DiGregorio Pittsburgh or something. Hold on, let me check.
No, it's for Facebook.
Facebook is DiGregorio PGH. For Pittsburgh.
There we go.
Yep.
Just want to make sure we get that shared so people can know we're live.
Yes.
But anyway, Susie, tell me about yourself.
Oh,
What makes
wow.
Susie?
Susie. Wow, I don't even know. So I guess we want to know musically, right?
Yeah, anything really.
I actually started playing guitar when I was 6.
Okay.
I played guitar for, wow, I'm about to carbon date myself. I am about to carbon date myself. I have been playing the guitar for 47 years.
Wow.
So, obviously I'm not a novice. Although heavy metal is actually kind of a recent thing for me. I guess you could say heavy metal was my midlife crisis. Since my first album came out when I was the big 5-0. But yeah, I've been playing guitar since I was 6. I taught guitar for a very long time. I taught for like 35 years. And then I decided it was my turn. I was going to throw some stuff out there and see what stuck. And thus was born DiGregorio in the House of Gregory. I mean, I guess that's like the elevator pitch. I don't know. Is that enough? Do you want more?
No, that's fine.
Because I can certainly talk. Because the other half of me is Irish, and I have sucked face with the Blarney Stone. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, you talk as much as you want. But what I really want to know is, you said you started playing guitar at 6. So What made you pick up a guitar at 6 years old?
Charo. And
Like the
again, I'm
fact-
carbon dating myself because everyone's looking at me going, I'm 30 years old and I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means.
Charo is a wow. So Charo is a flamenco guitarist, and she was phenomenal. She was actually, I want to say she's Cuban, maybe some kind of Hispanic. I'm probably flubbing this. My apologies, Charo. But she's in like her 60s or 70s or maybe even 80s now, and she still plays and she's still phenomenal. But Charo, back in the early to mid 70s, was doing the variety show circuits. So she was playing on the Carol Burnett show and the Donnie and Marie Osmond show and and all of the kind of variety shows that were in there. And every time that she would play, every time that she would go on these shows, she had this campy little shtick. And she would play her flamenco guitar. And my dad at the time had a classical guitar that sat in the corner. Yes, boys and girls, there is a difference between a flamenco guitar and a classical guitar, but that's for Guitar Building 101. We'll get into that later. But he had a classical guitar sitting there. And when I was like 6 years old, I saw this woman play guitar and I was just like, yeah, no, that's what I want to do when I don't grow up. And I picked up his classical guitar and noodled away the best that my little 6-year-old fingers could noodle on a classical guitar, because classical guitars have thicker or a wider neck.
They usually have
it's kind of hard at 6 years old to make that work.
So classical guitars usually have the vinyl strings too, or
yes, the nylon, yeah,
nylon, yeah.
Which they're actually softer to press down, but because they're thicker, they're thicker than regular strings. If you don't have that control, you tend to roll off of them. So I actually kind of started on classical, and then
what's the Hispanic guy's name that plays? It starts with an E. He's phenomenal.
Esteban.
I remember him growing up. I haven't heard anything about him in many moon, but
yeah, he was he was actually a phenomenal guitarist. There were so many of them. I've actually heard Roy Clark, if you guys, again, carbon dating myself, but if you guys remember Roy Clark from Hee Haw, he was actually a phenomenal, anything with strings and frets that guy could play. He was phenomenal. And you wouldn't know it from the crap he played on Hee Haw, but when you would get him and see him solo on stage or something, it was just like, oh, wow, that's amazing. He actually did a rendition of one of my favorite flamenco pieces, which is the Malagueña.
I know that one.
He actually did a rendition of it. And I was like, all right, respect. But yeah, that's how I got started. I got started because of the Carol Burnett show.
That's awesome. So who is your favorite all-time favorite guitarist?
It's tough to say because I have so many. There are so many guitarists that have done so much. If you're looking like classical, if you're looking at like the classical end, Leona Boyd, which most people probably haven't heard, but she is a Canadian guitarist and she's phenomenal. She did worldwide classical tours. She did, she played in front of an orchestra. She's just phenomenal. She probably had the most to do with shaping who I became as a guitarist, in pulling some classical influences. Because she also did a lot of flamenco and I really, really like flamenco. If we're going rock and metal, toss up between Steve Vai and Joe Satriani. I mean, those guys are they are gods among gods. If we're talking, I don't listen to country, so we're not going to talk about that. They're just something. Country is just the devil's music. Okay. Can we just be honest about this right now? Country is awful.
I love music, so I really do. People say that. I know people say that all the time, but so we just picked up my son's girlfriend. She's I don't know, 16, I guess.
Mhm.
And we're sitting in the car, and I'm going through working on my playlist that I have for Ghost Media Entertainment.
Mhm.
And so I'm just kind of going through and adding stuff that I see from posts and kind of listening to everything because I control the music everywhere I go, you know? And so once I got done with that, I started listening to, I turned on, what's that guy? Kim Dracula. And I started listening to a couple Kim Dracula songs. I don't know if you know who that
Cool.
is. But so Kim Dracula is like he kind of mixes genres, metal and rap and all kinds of stuff. And he's super cool. So I'm sitting there listening to that. And so I just kind of go through my list and I turn on Dirty Heads, which is like a beach rock, like reggae beach rock type of feel. And then I turned on some Carrie Underwood and then Blake Shelton. And then I went straight back into like Dropout Kings and then I turned on BB King and all kinds of different stuff. Like if my brain, like if something reminds me of something like Dropout King, BB King, you know, and I'm like, ooh, I want to hear that song. And I just kind of go. So I literally listen to pretty much any genre. There are some genres that I don't listen to often, like country. But there are some phenomenal country artists out there. And I love listening to them because they're just, they're unique and I don't know. But yeah, so I can't agree that country is the worst, but to each their own. Really.
I hate. I'll listen to anything else. I have actually. We were talking a little bit about my radio show before the show, before this show started, because I actually do a radio show on Dark Haven Radio, and my shtick is I have no genre.
Yeah,
I have no genre. I will play death metal next to gospel, next to blues, next to
exactly.
I just like when Kennedy, the station manager at the time, said, "Hey, what genre are you going to do for your show?" I'm like, "No, I'm literally doing this so I can help my friends, all of whom have bands and stuff, obviously."
Yeah.
So no genre, because then I can't play Danny who does R&B next to Aaron who does heavy metal next to all people are welcome. It's an all-inclusive show.
Yes. And that's how we operate too. I mean, we deal mostly with heavy metal, deathcore, all the core genres and stuff like that, just because that is kind of our niche. That's what we promote the most. But like I've got a rap show coming up that we're going to be promoting. And then, I mean, we've interviewed, you know, like Irish type of music, like,
love Irish
you know,
music.
Whatever. And, you know, we've done all kinds of stuff with a lot of different people, and it's all about just helping and getting the people's name out there, you know, even if it's not your genre that you like, you've now heard of this band. You might forget them, but you've heard of them, you know, and that's our goal is to, our main goal for this business, this page, is to get, try to push and try to get recognition from some of the national artists, which it's been working. So that, you know, if the national artist sees this little guy playing a song and they love it, that just made a connection there.
Right.
And that's the main goal, is to try to make those connections and network and try to get recognition from the little guys by the big guys or the big promoters and stuff like that, and help push them to that next level. So that's what we do. That's
awesome. That is awesome. That's actually very similar to why I got talked into doing a radio show. Because it wasn't something I was interested in, but I was like, oh, well, this is a way that I can help my friends. You know, it was a way that I can, you know, boost everyone to my tens upon tens of listeners. I don't mean to brag, but I'm closing in on 100 whole people that listen to my show every week.
Awesome. But well, you should definitely give us some details and we can see if we can get some more people listening.
Awesome. Darkhavenradio.com. There are Thursday nights from 8 to 10. Mostly I do an interview format now. We do about an hour's worth of music and about an hour's worth of interview. So I kind of try and mix it up a little bit. Mostly because it got really boring for me to just sit there staring at waveforms going across the screen. So instead of that, I was like, well, I can deal with about 15 minutes of waveforms, and then, the extrovert in me just goes, nope, have to talk to someone. Where's there a person? Nope, gotta do it.
Yep.
So the interview format has been working really, really well. Everyone seems to like it better, including me, especially me. Because now I don't feel like I'm just sitting there staring at a screen for 2 hours. So between 8 and 10 Eastern time on darkhavenradio.com. And by all means, too, if you know any bands that want to, get an interview and get some stuff played, just shoot it on over.
For sure. Yeah, well, when we're done here, just send me a message. I think you have my personal. Send me a message with any information, and I will get it pushed on the page. And if anybody's interested, we can push them your way.
For sure. Very, very cool. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we're all about.
Oh wait, I wasn't here to talk about Darkhaven Radio, was I?
That's okay. Basically, I usually say this before we start, but we don't really run these as interviews. We're just hanging out, having a good time.
That's how I do mine.
Yeah,
I just warn them ahead of time. Yeah, grab a cup of coffee, settle in. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I got my Bud Light, so you're drinking water. That's different.
I'm drinking water. Yeah. I don't. I try not to drink on the job, even though this is technically not a paid job at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, but we're just hanging out.
But yeah, no, this is great. I very much appreciate it. Very much appreciate being on the show. It has been a wild ride so far. I think I was 46 when I decided. No, 45 actually. I got tired of the day job that I was running because it was an awful place. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do the music thing. Gonna do it. I'm gonna throw myself into it. And I actually forced myself to write at least one song a week for the next year.
That's awesome.
So by the end of that year, I actually had like 60 songs written.
That's awesome. I only have one song written. I posted on Facebook and said, hey, if anybody wants this song, I would love to hear it played. And this is the style I wanted in. And I had 3 people pick it up. So I don't know if they're actually going to do anything with it or... I don't know. I didn't really get any feedback, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And then it took me about my first out, House of Gregory, Chapter 1, which actually the translation of DiGregorio is basically like House of Gregory or Line of Gregory or kind of family, that kind of family thing.
Yeah.
So the album ties back to the name of the band as well. But that was the most cursed album in history. That was absolutely the most cursed album in history. Okay. It took me 5 years to get that out. So I started it when I was 45. I actually put it out when I was the big 50. So
okay.
So it was oh my goodness. Now I can laugh at it. I was not laughing while I was going through it. But the first studio that I tried to work with took like 3 years, and I only got one song out of 19. Well, we were working with an EP we were going to break the 19 song album up into 4 EPs at that point. So out of the 4 songs that we were supposed to put out in 3 years, I got like one of them.
Okay.
Like, oh, that's painful.
But it's out now. That's all that counts, right?
Right. It is out now. Oh my goodness. Yes. Found a new studio. These guys are great. As a matter of fact, this is not the only Black and White. We ended up having a technical issue. The friend of mine who was mixing and mastering Black and White for me, had her laptop stolen right after she had sent me the files. So I ended up having to, I think she's gotten all that straightened out. So that's good. But I ended up having to go back to Firecase Studios and go, Matt, I need you to rescue me again. And so Matt rescued 2 projects in a row. The third one, which was House of Gregory Part 2, Black and White was kind of the EP that I snuck out in the middle that I didn't really tell anybody about. Also a rather... I don't know if it's an amusing story. I don't know how to phrase the Black and White story exactly, but I had originally written it about. Here I go. I'm just gonna carve. Warning, I'm just going to carbon date myself for the whole gosh darn interview. So back in the early 2000s when I lived in New York.
Okay.
So back in my 30s, I had a black and white Cocker Spaniel named Oreo, who had to stay here in Pittsburgh when I moved to New York. She couldn't come with me. And she unfortunately died while I was in New York. So I wrote the black and white EP about losing my dog. About 2 years ago, when my dad died, all of the songs from Black and White just kept popping up on my playlist. No matter what I would do, no matter how I would randomize it, no matter what I would do, there would be songs from Black and White, like every other song, all the time. And I was just like, well, if this ain't somebody telling me something, I don't know what is. So the object was, these songs are already written. All I have to do is clean them up, re-record a few parts, slap some vocals on, and we're good to go. It almost went that smoothly, but not quite. We got everything done. And then, like I said, Danny's laptop got stolen. She's gotten that all fixed, but we ended up having to go back to Fire K to mix the vocals in and do the final mixing and mastering and kind of put the EP out. So that was kind of also, I don't know. So far, it just seems like most of my projects are just really, really cursed or haunted or something.
Hey, but they're out. That's all that counts.
They're out.
They're out. And they sound good. I was listening before we hopped on.
Thanks.
Yeah, everything sounds good. I really like the style. I really like the way everything's written.
Nice.
It gives me that it not to try to carbon date you, but it gives you like classic rock, that classic metal feel, but it's not at the same time. Like it's a mixture between that classic metal style from the 80s and 90s, but you also have added in, more, I don't know how to word it, like more modern style of music, and it just kind of put it together, and it sounds really cool, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. I very much appreciate that. I did. I studied when I got serious about guitar. I had played for, I don't know, from when I was 6 to when I was 14 or 15. When I was like 15, 16, I was like, you know what? I'm going to get serious about this.
Yeah.
And the first thing I did was I went into classical guitar. So I had years and years and years of classical guitar training under my fingers. And then to do something different, when I was in my early 20s, way back when dinosaurs ruled the earth, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something different. I started studying jazz. So I have like this classical meets jazz background. And then for the longest time, this is the funniest part. For the longest time, I hated metal. Like, no, I won't listen to it. No, yeah. Classical and jazz are the only real music. I was a snob. I was such a snob. I thought I was the second coming of Mozart. Turns out I was not correct. Weird. But for the longest time, I wouldn't listen to it. I listened to a lot of prog rock. I listened to a lot of jazz. I listened to a lot of classical. I listened to a lot of anything that wasn't metal. I listened to a lot of like the pomp rock, like the classically influenced rock. But I didn't listen to a lot of metal. And one day I was looking on one of the early, not streaming sites, but one of the early download sites like eMusic or something.
Right.
For bands that sounded like Porcupine Tree. For those of you who don't know, Porcupine Tree is actually a really, really cool prog band. So if you're into progressive rock, just go.
You might as well send me a list.
Right. Just grab yourself a glass of absinthe and just let it wash over you. But I was looking for bands that sounded like Porcupine Tree because I was really into progressive rock at the time. And up pops Within Temptation.
Okay.
And I'm like, Within Temptation sounds nothing like Porcupine Tree. Nothing. Not even close. Not the same genre. Not even close. The only reason that Within Temptation would sound like Porcupine Tree at that point is because neither one of them were mainstream. So I'm listening to Within Temptation and I hear Sharon Zaneddel's silky smooth soprano going over the crashing drums and the thumping bass and the screaming guitar. And I'm like, where has this metal been all of my life?
Right. Yeah. See, I don't listen to a lot of the progressive metal or anything like that. There was one band since you started talking about, progressive metal, I've been trying to think of their name. I want to say the name of the band is called Leprous, but I don't remember. I'm going to look it up. They have a
We
song,
have the internet.
Yeah. Yeah. Not like when we were younger.
Oh,
It's so weird to me because I'm in that age group where we didn't have internet. I didn't grow up with the internet, and now we have the internet. All of these advances in technology are absolutely phenomenal.
I still remember my first.
It is Leprous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Leprous. And I want to say
still
the song
remember
is
my
called
first my first cell phone was like a brick.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even for my age, they were a brick.
Mm-hmm.
The Red Sky is the name of the song. So my brother turned me on to this band. He's into the progressive metal. One of his favorite bands is like Tool. And I'm not a huge fan of Tool, but I do like some of their music. But he turned me on to Leprous, and the song is called The Red Sky, and I became obsessed with this song.
Right.
And one of the ideas that I had for the song is I wanted, well, not really the song, but like the style of music. One of my ideas that I would absolutely love to do, I am a fine arts type of person. I love anything that expresses feelings and emotions and stuff like that. Well, my idea was to find a progressive metal band, put them on a stage, like in a hall or something like that, and have like ballet dancers do a routine to the progressive metal song.
Nice.
Always wanted to set something like that up. And I'm sure you could do like fire spinners and like hoop dancers and all kinds of different things. But
there are
that's
so many things.
something I would love to do, because not only is that progressive metal, I don't know, it's vibey, and it's just, I don't know how to explain it. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, because it gives you a whole different feel than any other type of music.
It does.
It's just, I don't know. And I feel like doing like an interpretive dance or like a ballet to this metal, to progressive metal, they just fit so perfectly. Just the way that they're put together, the time signatures and the sound and just the tempo and literally everything. And then put them together with trained dancers, and it would be a whole show. It would be an opera without the opera music. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It would be a wonderful thing to see. And so I would love to set something up like that one day.
Oh, that would be awesome. That would be absolutely awesome.
It's never been done before. I mean, you've seen stuff before, but like, I don't think anybody's dedicated progressive metal with dancers and not that I know of.
I don't know. I know there were on kind of like the underground scene. I know there were a couple of like metal, more like symphonic metal type operas. Yeah. But I don't know of anything. Who was it? I think it was Therian just put out like blocked himself off for like 5 years and then came out with an opera, which was brilliant because Laurie Lewis, who ended up being one of their singers, is just a phenomenal singer. That girl's got a range. She is great. The first time I ever heard her was with the band Asma Deva, and they actually did the Doreste Deace from Mozart as a metal tune. And
that's awesome.
That was the rest of the album is terrible. The rest of the album is absolutely awful. But to hear Lori Lewis do Mozart as a metal tune, it was just like, it's one of those moments. Like, as a musician, I have been telling my students, I taught for years and years and years and years and years, but I've taught my students, I don't know how long, like, it's all the same shit, you know? It's just, it's all the same stuff. If you look at Mozart and you look at the left hand in a Mozart piece, they're power chords.
Yep.
He's a metalhead. You know, if you take the
Man.
arias off of the sopranos and put them on a guitar, it's a solo.
Yeah.
It's all the same stuff. If you look at Bach and you translate a Bach piece and you look at it, it's a 2-5-1 in a harmonic minor. It's jazz. Bach wrote jazz. It's all the same stuff. Like, we're not treading any new territory. The only place we can go now is to kind of mix and match things, you know, and put different things together.
Well, that's like, okay. So I'm sure your timeline, your Facebook, your social media has been blowing up. Typically, as of right now, my timeline is blowing up over two things: Sleep Token and Matt Rife, the comedian.
You know, somebody had posted something on my timeline about, or not on my timeline, but it popped up on my feed about Matt Rife. And I think my remark was, "Get off my lawn." I have no idea who this is.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the major sex appeal. The ladies love him, but there's just something about.
I did see pictures. He is cute. But I mean,
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, for me to be interested, that would be a little creepy. I'm just, again, you know, carbon dating myself.
Yeah.
Carbon dating myself. That would just be a little bit creepy. I'm sorry.
But to get off Matt Rife and get back into Sleep Token, when you're talking about doing something new and mixing things together and just being completely different. If you're not familiar with Sleep Token, I suggest you listen to them, just based upon the fact that you enjoy different styles of music.
Love them.
There's a song called The Summoning, and it kind of it's like a rock song, and then it kind of gets poppy in the middle, and then at the very end of the song it goes into this jazzy beat, and it's phenomenal. But a lot of their music, what they're doing, which a lot of people are hating on them, but a lot of people are loving them at the same time, is they're taking pretty much all the genres, mixing them together and creating something new. And people are starting to mimic this. This is like when Lorna Shore brought Will Ramos onto the scene. Will Ramos started doing something different that nobody else was really doing. There were bands out there that were doing the same stuff that Will was doing, but the different noises and the tempo changes and just everything that, you know, Lorna Shore was putting together, it kind of was a chain reaction to kind of build something new. And I feel like Sleep Token is doing that at the moment. They're taking the different genres, and they're taking, you know, and it all comes down to what you feel on the inside.
Right.
You know, if you listen to that song and you're feeling it, and then it changes, but you're still vibing and you're still feeling it, I think that is going to go a long way. And they're absolutely killing it right now. So
they are.
Yeah.
There's a band here in Pittsburgh called Working Breed.
Okay.
I went to see them. The first time I went to see them, I was writing for a magazine, again, trying to help my friends out. So Working Breed and I share a drummer, Jeremy Popeye, phenomenal drummer. Please don't book him if you're in the Pittsburgh area, because he still has to get into the studio to record my next EP. So leave Jeremy alone until after August, when he records my stuff. But you know, Jeremy is a phenomenal drummer. And so we're sharing with a band called Working Breed. And he was letting me know the one day that they were doing a video release party. And I was like, oh, well, I have a thing where I write for a music magazine here, you know, in the Pittsburgh area now, which I no longer do. But I was like, let me come on over, and I'll support the team, support the home team, and ended up writing an article for them. But this band, this is the first time I have ever seen anyone play a musical saw live. It was phenomenal.
Yeah,
She
I love that type of stuff.
she does. Erica Lang. Let me give a shout out to my good friend Erica Lang. But Erica Lang she's one of the few musicians that actually makes me jealous. She goes from keyboard to trombone to musical saw to
Yep.
like hurdy-gurdy to like just pick up some random silly instrument, and nothing she does sounds bad. Not one single thing that she does sounds bad. It's just
Absolutely.
phenomenal. So if you get a chance to listen to their first album was Hieroglyphica. There's also, I think they have the Turtle Race was a single, and then they had Hieroglyphica, and they just released Gaslighting. So they
Okay.
have like 3 releases out, but great band, does a lot of different stuff. A lot of cool little instruments, a lot of and I think I just fed her addiction with instruments because she was over at my house about a week ago, and one of my cousins had given me a Rolly keyboard, which is one of those ones where you can like push it and move your
Mhm.
fingers and it does different
Yep.
things. And I'm like, not my jam. You like to play with sound. Here, you do this.
Now my memory, I have the memory of a goldfish. Okay. So if when I say message me, I truly mean message me, because I will not remember. I don't even remember what I asked you to message me about 5 minutes ago, to be honest with you. If I
But
don't
ask me to
write it
message you
down and
about the
have it
other.
in front of me, then I
Right.
don't remember. So, but yeah,
No worries.
definitely message me that band as well. I would love to check them out. But I did have one question, because I kind of want to talk about my side of it. I mean, it's not really me talking about it, but I want to share with you. What is your favorite um, like musical type song that you've seen redone? For example, well, I'll just tell you mine right off the bat, and then you can tell me yours if you've got one. My number one favorite song to hear redone by literally anybody, whether it's a metal style or whatever type of style, is Phantom of the Opera. I absolutely love what people are doing with that song. It's definitely overdone, definitely overplayed, but I listen to every single one that I come across and I fall in love with it. Like that song is so iconic, and then people are doing different things with it, and it just blows my mind.
I actually do not generally enjoy cover tunes. Um,
Really?
it is, it's weird. I'm very much, I very much want to hear, not that you can't be artistic or creative with a cover tune, because there are some people who have done some neat stuff with cover tunes.
Yeah.
Um, do I need to say it? I'm going to carbon date myself again. But when Blondie released The Tide is High, right, back in the 80s,
Yep.
no one realized that Blondie was doing a cover tune. That's actually a cover tune. You know, there are so many songs out there that no one realizes are cover tunes, and you start kind of associating them with the wrong band. But I'm not really like, I don't want to hear what you do to somebody else's stuff. I want to hear what you do originally. I want to hear
Right.
your creativity come out. As far as cover tunes that I have enjoyed, wow. I got to think long and hard on that one,
Well,
because
the
usually
first
the
one,
ones I remember are like, oh no, you just did what to you just did what to Metallica? No,
well,
no, that was wrong. No.
the first one that I did, you're saying people don't realize, the first one I didn't realize was Whiskey in the Jar by
Yep.
Metallica. And who sang that? Was it Bob Seger?
Mhm.
Originally Bob Seger.
Right, I believe
And
so.
back in the 90s when that tape came out, and I'm like, okay, Metallica, let me get this cassette tape because I love Metallica, and it was Garage Inc.
Mhm.
I was just jamming to Whiskey in the Jar, and I think Tuesday's Gone was another cover.
Right. The Doors, Backdoor Man,
Yeah.
cover tune.
Oh, really?
It is. It was actually I can't remember who did it. I'm going to be drummed out of the blues club forever. But it was but it was actually a cover tune. It was a blues tune from like the 30s, 40s. Yeah.
Yep.
No one realizes the Doors did a cover tune, right?
Right. Well, you don't
There's
realize
so
it
many,
until you start searching for it, and then you're like, wait a minute.
right?
Well,
Yeah, no, it
unless you
was
know music, you know.
well, or unless you're old enough to have lived through all of it. We should have a little counter for the number of times that carbon date goes up. Goes up on the screen.
Oh, I lost count already.
Right? See, that's why we need a counter. That's why we need a counter. But yeah, this is exciting. I'm actually getting ready to I've got 2 projects in the works right now. Knock on wood. There's going to be an EP coming out this year, hopefully around Halloween. And I am actually working on a heavy metal opera about Jack the Ripper. So
I did see that you were working on an opera. What can you tell us about that?
ooh, um, probably a lot. I mean, I'm still writing it, so I can't give away any trade secrets. There aren't any, right?
Well, we got about
but
18 minutes left, so you can just talk.
So my dad was a police officer. So my dad was a cop, state investigator and a cop
Okay.
when I was growing up. And about the time I was 10-ish years old, 9, 10 years old, was about the time the Green River Killer was running around in California. So all of the police officers, all of the law enforcement guys at the time were comparing the Green River Killer to Jack the Ripper. So
Right.
little 10-year-old me is bebopping around the house the one day, and I hear mom and dad talking in hushed tones in the kitchen. I'm like, I'm not supposed to be in there. That's where I'm going to be. So I run into the kitchen and sit down at the table. And as I run into the kitchen and sit down at the table, I hear my dad go, blah, 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 Jack the Ripper. And I looked at my mom and my dad and I said, who's Jack the Ripper? Because, you know, I'm 10 and I'm not supposed to know this and it sounds cool. And my dad gets all happy. He's like, oh, isn't that cute? My little girl wants to learn about serial killers. And my mom's like, never mind. Dad won. He taught me everything he knew about Jack the Ripper, and it was all wrong. About 10 years later, there was a huge box of case files from Jack the Ripper that some police officer in the 1800s had taken home as a souvenir, returned to Scotland Yard anonymously. And then we started getting more and more information about it. So I have been fascinated with Jack the Ripper for the last 43 years, give or take.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, when you're 10 and you come from a fairly creative family, and there are a lot of musicians in my family, turning anything into a musical comedy seems like a good idea. So the original idea was to turn Jack the Ripper into a musical comedy. My mother wasn't too fond of that one for some silly reason. I don't know what. But it just kind of kept morphing in my head and morphing and morphing and morphing and morphing until I finally had the skills, and I'm like, we're just going to start writing this, and it's going to be a metal opera. I am trying to keep it historically accurate. So that's going to be kind of keeping it historically accurate and not boring to watch is going to probably be the big thing. Because let's face it, no one wants to sit through a coroner's inquest. Most people don't feel like that's a good time.
Right.
It's just, it's like 4 days of, well, where were you on the night of? Yeah. It's like 4 days of the worst parts of Perry Mason. Did I just carbon date myself again? Probably.
I think that's 42.
40, the ultimate answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything.
Yes. We've gone plaid.
Somebody change the combination on my luggage. All right. So, I love Mel Brooks. So yeah, so I am actually writing, and I'm writing from the standpoint that we do not and we will never know who the killer was. And there are two
Right.
big reasons that we do not and we will not never know who the killer was. The first reason is World War II. A lot of the Scotland Yard records got bombed,
Yep.
so they simply don't exist. The second reason is because a lot of the cops back in the day, that was their souvenir. Hey, I'm retiring. I'm taking this chunk of stuff because I worked
Yep.
on it.
Yep.
That was a souvenir. So a lot of it went missing. Some of it, a good portion of it came back, but a lot of it didn't come back. So you have people taking pieces of the case files. You actually have, back in Victorian age, it is actually the start of modern day police, right? So it's the first, it's the Mary Jane Kelly murder was one of the first murders where they actually took pictures at the murder scene. Right.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that one.
That was Jack the Ripper's last victim.
Okay.
So that we're talking 1888 is the first time we used photography on a crime victim.
Okay.
Using dogs to track victims, perpetrators, what have you, was just coming into its infancy. Fingerprinting came in years later. So they're fingerprinting as a method of identification came in years later. So this is kind of the start of modern day policing. So there wasn't the kind of chain of command on the files that you would expect now. Now everything's under lock and key, and everybody has to check in and check out, and
Right.
that didn't exist back then. So there are a lot of reasons we'll simply never know. And I am going from the kind of unknown local guy perspective. Don't worry, there will still be plenty of blood, guts, gore, murders. It's kind of what it's all about. But I'm focusing a lot on the prostitutes.
Okay.
Because it's very interesting to me. None of these prostitutes, none of the five canonical prostitutes that were definitively murdered by Jack the Ripper, none of them started off that way. Like, they were all pretty well to do and moving up and, social climbers. And then all of a sudden they just tanked and ended up on the streets. And like pretty much all five of them.
That makes you wonder. That makes you wonder how long has he been watching? How
right?
long has he been selecting his victims? If that's definitely a pattern. Serial killers, they have a pattern.
They do, and I don't know if he was watching them from rise and fall, so to speak, or if he was just watching them after they had fallen, but. Or I
don't know.
That's
with five. That's too. It's
they had
common of a denominator. That there has to be
maybe there is some kind of,
or maybe he caused them to fail.
I mean, there is absolutely some sort of common thread between them that we're all missing. And that's probably been bombed or taken.
Right.
But it's really funny to me because I obviously frequent. There's a website called casebook.org, and it is literally everything, every case file, everything that is known about the Jack the Ripper case is on this website. It's a phenomenal work. Hats off to Stephen Ryder for putting that out. But it is. It's funny to me because you'll be on the message boards or something there, and they'll be like, oh, well, this and this. And I'm like, but you don't know that. Like, you're saying that this cop said something after he retired and therefore he was removed from the situation and he was making it up or something to this effect. Said, but we're missing so many of the records that I don't know you can make that determination.
Right. So yeah. Where's the proof? The proof is in the pudding,
Right. And I just think it's fascinating. it's fascinating on so many levels. There were so many things going on in 1880s Victorian England that are like happening all over again now. It's like, did we not learn anything?
Yeah,
That can
we're coming up on what, 150 years?
just
Off
about,
the
it was
top of my head.
1888.
Yeah,
So yeah, we're coming up on
132, 135 years because I was
Yeah.
born in 88.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it's a fascinating story. There are so many reasons it's fascinating to me. One of them is, like I said, so many things are happening in Victorian England that are happening again now. And it's like, really? 135 years and we didn't learn squat?
History
Really?
repeats itself. It always
Oh,
does.
always.
I just wanted to shout out. My eyesight is terrible. Heather Dunn and Sean Trainer are both in here making comments. Heather says, "Susie, you rock, girlfriend." She said that a while ago, and Sean said, "Woohoo!" And Mel Brooks is awesome. And then Heather just wrote and said, "Agreed." So I just wanted to make sure I recognize them for hanging in
Heather
the chat
and Sean,
and watching us.
Howdy. Heather and Sean are two of the gang that I hang out with out there in Beaver County, Pennsylvania.
Nice. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to make sure I shouted them out for hanging out with us tonight.
Hi, Heather. Hi, Sean. So yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating that we don't know who did it. East End London was the most overcrowded section of London.
Yeah.
How do you get away with murdering 5 people when you literally can't take 3 steps without bumping into someone? There are so many things that make this so fascinating. And I'm hoping, again, knock on wood, hoping that I can kind of capture some of that.
That would be cool.
Because it's it was like a big labyrinth. Like half of the houses were left open. You could literally, there were people, like if you were on this street, you would walk through somebody's house to go to the next street and nobody thought of it. It's incredible. It was just an incredible time period. It's very fascinating to me. And of course, I mean, Victorian age and heavy metal, we're kind of in the goth realm. I mean, they're kind of cousins, you know?
Yeah. What really fascinates me is like you don't, it's either my brain stopped working. This happens sometimes. I don't know if this ever happens to you, but I'll be in the middle of a thought.
I usually just drink more coffee.
Coffee puts me to sleep. I'm extremely ADHD.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, what I was saying is what really fascinates me is you don't see serial killers nowadays, or at least they're not brought up. You would think with today's media they would be, but like even from the 70s and 80s, 60s, 70s and 80s, you do not see the frequency of serial killers that you do today. You might, get a school shooting or something, something like that, or a shooting, but you don't see any serial killers now. And what I was trying to say before my brain shut off is I think a lot of that is because of the police department is now more trained to catch people quicker with patterns. I don't know. But I've always found that fascinating because I haven't seen a serial killer in my lifetime.
And may you continue not seeing serial killers.
Right. But, yeah, I don't wish that it was a thing. I'm just saying it fascinates me because of between technology and everything that we have nowadays, it's just not a thing. I mean, the only serial killer that I remember from growing up was Dr. Kevorkian. And that's just because he was locked up in the prison that I grew up 15 minutes away from.
Yeah, there were in my lifetime, there were a lot. There was Ted Bundy, I think, was in my lifetime. The Green River Killer was in my lifetime. Kevorkian, of course. And there were a couple like into the 60s leading up to when I was born, because I was born in the 70s. I was born in 70, actually. So there were a lot of I don't know if it's the crime and detection that has changed that, or if it's the ease with which you can travel now.
Yeah.
Because it's harder to I mean, within a day you can be from California to New York City, and that hasn't always been the case.
But I feel like there would still be patterns. If you commit a murder in California, fly to New
Mhm.
York in the same day that you committed a murder,
Mhm.
and then the next day you commit a murder in New York,
Mhm.
you're still going to have that same style. But I guess it would be harder to detect if you're
It would be.
traveling.
And there are actually, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the Carrie Brown murder in New York City in like 1889, everyone assumed at the time that was Jack the Ripper coming to America because it was very similar to what had happened in East End London. Um, so there were lots of quote copycat killers and
Right.
oh well he went here, oh well he went to France, oh well he went to there were a couple people I think that said he went to Australia or something. So there were a lot that was around back then too, where people kept trying to place him in different places of the world.
Right.
If I had to lock down a suspect, my favorite suspect is James Kelly, who was literally a crazy man. He was locked up in an insane asylum. He escaped the insane asylum. Basically, according to him, traveled the world and kept committing these murders. And then when he was done, he basically turned himself back into the insane asylum and said, "Well, this is where I've been, and this is what I've been doing."
Right.
So of all of the modern day of all of the suspects, he actually admitted to it when he turned himself in. Now, he was also bonkers. So was he
Yeah.
admitting to it because he was bonkers, or was he admitting to it because he did it? Don't know.
No.
But he was
Sean
pretty
says
crazy.
listening to country music will make you a serial killer.
Yeah, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. One more chorus of "There's a Tear in My Beer" and I'm reaching for something.
Well, I hate to change the subject and everything like that because we could probably talk about this for about 4 more hours, but we're coming up on the end. We got just a couple more minutes left. We try to keep these around an hour. Why don't we do a little self promotion for you? Talk about the band, talk about your radio station, whatever you want to self promote. We want to hear about it. And how can we get a
Cool.
hold of you? Do you have merch? Literally everything.
So merch is coming. The website is being rebooted right now. So DiGregorioMusic.com. DiGregorio. DiGregorio. But
Yeah,
so the
that's how I remembered
refreshing
it.
the website, so merch should be up sometime next week. We do have some merch. We do have the band website. All of that will be available in one spot. I'm not a big fan of, go here, go there, go the other place. Of course, everyone likes to plug Bandcamp, dgregorio.bandcamp.com, because not just for me, ladies and gentlemen of the jury and the audience, but for all of the musicians, we actually get more of the money on
Yep,
Bandcamp than we
exactly.
do anywhere else. So we prefer Bandcamp because, hey, I might actually be able to put gas in my car with those tens of dollars that I make every month.
Well, you got
You know,
Bandcamp Friday coming up in August too. This is the next
yeah,
big
there you
Friday,
go.
so that'll be a good push.
Darkhavenradio.com. Yes, darkhavenradio.com. I actually have two shows. I have the Metal Zoo, which is supposed to be happening right now. That didn't work out. And I have my normal show, Lost in the Static, from 8 to 10 on Thursday nights. I have do the Metal Zoo on Fridays between 8 and 10. And that is usually more like just Jason and I being idiots.
Okay.
That's just the straight comedy shtick. For those of you in the
That's
Pittsburgh
what me
area,
and Zelda do with our interviews. We just idiots. If you've watched anything that we've done, usually we've got wigs on it. There's something new we started, but I didn't mean to interrupt. I just sometimes I
And
talk
if you
I
happen
don't
to
mean
be
to.
in the Pittsburgh area, I run the absolute coolest historical fencing school ever, Broken Plow Western Martial Arts. So they call me the den mom over there because I make sure that everyone has lights and heat and the doors stay open and we can play with swords. So
That's cool.
I mean, somewhere in there I have a day job because we all have to have day jobs, but who cares about that? Day job makes sure I can play with swords and play guitar and stay on the radio. That's what the day job
Absolutely.
does.
Heather says, and karaoke.
Right, and karaoke, which is possibly worse than country, but the jury's still out on that. I think had I been drinking more that night, I may have actually enjoyed the karaoke.
I get that. Yeah, Zelda and my oldest boy Zeke, they love karaoke. Since we just moved back to Michigan, we haven't found a spot yet. But we were at our spot in Missouri every Saturday, and they would get the bar going because
Nice.
Zelda's only 9 and he just turned 16. So and they would get up there, they'll sing their songs, and the bar just goes nuts. And it was a fun time.
Nice.
So we'll have to find a spot here out in Michigan.
Yay. It's good to see the little ones getting into music.
For sure. Yeah. But was there anything else that you wanted to add on top of that?
No, I think we're good. Just the new website should be up in it should be actually up and running tomorrow at some point. So hopefully that'll be a thing, and then I'll get the merch up when I get the merch up. Because you know, I've hit the age. I've hit that age where the computer and I, we're not friends. We're not friends anymore.
Well, doing merch in general is a whole process. Like my team is working on 3 different designs right now. We've already got the designs done, but getting the store up and running and getting everything pushed out, and then trying to work on the side projects that they have going on, and then me trying to work on the side projects I have going on. It just it takes time. So
Yeah.
One of these days we'll just have to sit down, have a meeting, and just get it put together and throw it out there, see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I have all my designs done. I just have to actually.
Yep, that's where we're at. We have the designs done. We just got to actually get this.
Just got to put it all up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great having you on. I was less nervous than I thought without my little Zelda sidekick. But you like to talk and I like to talk, so it kind of worked out great for me.
It did. No, thank you so much for
Appreciate
having me. I very much appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
For sure. But yeah, you have a wonderful night. Everybody watching, make sure you check out DiGregorio, right? Is that how you say it?
DiGregorio, yes.
DiGregorio. And what was the radio station called again?
Dark Haven Radio.
Dark Haven Radio. So make sure you're checking those things out. And definitely message the DiGregorio page for when merch comes out and all of that, and make sure that you are supporting our friends here. So, but yeah, it was wonderful having you on. I appreciate the serial killer talk and all the fun that we had tonight.
It's so metal.
look forward to seeing what else that you have put out. We love your music. We love the style. So we love everything that you got going on. So I just appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us tonight.
Oh, thank you so much. I very much appreciate it, Dustin.
Yeah, you're very welcome. But we will talk to you very soon. Okay.
All right. Sounds great. I will.